vegan mac and cheese, anybody? I just want to start off this video by talking about the fact that I did not do what I planned to do with this video. My goal was to read 6 books in a week. I don't know why I decided that was okay for me to think that I could do. First of all, these were not small books. Like, hello, Nosferatu is like 695 pages. What was I thinking? You can see my attempts of me just trying to crank these books out in a week and how much it failed. I planned to have this finished by the 15th. And now it's the 17th and I haven't finished 3 of the books. I am okay with that though. As I'm recording this, I am reading Horns. I love it just as much as I thought I would. You will see me going on about it later on in this video. I still have to finish 2 others after that, and that's okay. It was like I was giving myself homework. You have to finish all of this within a week. Why? Why would I do that to myself? Why was I trying to do that to myself? Now I'm just taking the time to actually enjoy these books and get something out of them, because rushing through them like that, you're not gonna get shit out of it, bud. You're not. Like, I'm hard on myself and I do shit like that all the fucking time, and then it just backfires. And you wanna know why? It's because it's too much for me, and for some reason I don't know when too much is enough. But it's a lesson that I need to learn, a journey that I'm going on. So I'm okay with not having read all of the books, because again, I'm reading a book right now that is fantastic, and I'm glad that I'm taking the time to enjoy this book instead of trying to cram it down the way that I was trying to. That was gross, and I will never do it again. So enjoy this chaotic vlog where I talk about 6 horror books that I read and consumed and enjoyed, disliked, I don't know. This month I decided that I was going to read 5 horror books because Halloween. I've been wanting to expand my reading taste, and I just thought that horror was a good place to start, because there is so many books that have just piqued my interest that I just haven't gotten to, and now I'm setting a dedicated time to actually get to those books. So the books that I'm going to be reading, I didn't do this on purpose, but I'm going to be reading 2 Paul Tremblay books, 2 Joe Hill books, and then 2 Nick Cutter books. I literally didn't mean to do that. That's just all of the horror that's been on my radar. Is just happened to be 2 by each of those authors. So I'm gonna read The Deep and Little Heaven by Nick Cutter. And then by Joe Hill, I'm gonna read Nosferatu and Horns. For Paul Tremblay, I'm going to be reading The Cabin at the End of the Woods and Survivor Song. I am really excited. Some of these books, I can't wait to talk about. I think the one I'm most excited for is Horns, but I don't want to say too much. Hello, good morning. Or at least it's morning for me. I don't know what fucking time it is where you are. The first book that I am going to be reading is The Deep by Nick Cutter. The Deep is about this plague that is gradually taking over, and it makes you forget everything. So basically it starts with small things, like you'll forget where your keys are or your wallet. Seems harmless. And it gradually takes on, the forgetting starts getting worse and worse until eventually you forget basic functions. You forget how to eat and you forget how to breathe eventually. So this plague is rampant, and the only anecdote that they have is something that is in the bottom of the Pacific Ocean in the Marianas Trench. Basically follows this guy who's trying to find the cure for it. I have read one other Nick Cutter book, and that was The Troop. I really liked The Troop. That was probably one of the first actual horror things I ever read. The imagery was disgusting, so I'm hoping to find that in this next book and in the other book that I'm gonna read by him, Little Heaven. It was just horrifying and disgusting, and I cannot wait to read more of it, honestly. I've been reading The Deep. I am about 200 pages in. Honestly, I've been kind of flying through this book. It's a pretty quick read, and the chapters are really short, which I love, and it really keeps the pace going. There's not much graphic horror in this book. I'm comparing it to The Troop a lot of the time. In The Troop, right off the bat, it started off with some gruesome stuff, pretty quickly in.
I wasn't grossed out until like page 185. That was the first time that there was something that was remotely kind of gross like that to me. There was one other part where if you are like squeamish when it comes to bugs, maybe that'll get to you, but like it didn't get to me because I didn't care. I thought that this book was going to talk more about the plague. They call it the Gets, by the way, but it takes place mostly in the ocean. I guess I should have expected that though, because I have heard it described as a nautical horror. So hopefully I finish this book today. I think I will. Like, I only have like 275 pages left. I think I can finish that up. It's exactly 12 o'clock. 275 more pages. I definitely got this, and then I'm probably gonna move on to my next book, so that's exciting. So that's my update for what I've been reading so far today. Yay. Wasn't that compelling?
What did I think about The Deep? The first thing I noticed about this book is the fact that it was not focused as much on the Gets like I thought it was going to be, but it was talking more about the scientists and retrieving the anecdote. It took place underwater for the most part. It was such a claustrophobic type feeling. This book was both claustrophobic in the way that it was set up, where they were underwater and there was only a limited space where they could be and go, and everything was dark and they didn't know what was going on really at any given time. And that was mixed with the psychosis. Basically, there's this thing, I think they called it like the sillies, and people basically start losing their minds when they're off to sea for like a long period of time. And when it showed the parts when it was talking about what was going on inside a person's mind, it was like, I can't escape this right now. It was just a very claustrophobic type vibe. Nick Cutter has a way of expertly intertwining visual horror as well as psychological thriller aspects. This also reminds me of The Troop and how it expertly crafted together the way that the kids were just kind of losing it slowly, and it also had that graphic horror that was just like, ugh. And it mixed that so well, and The Deep had a lot of that in it too. This book was very fast paced, and I really like that in a horror book or a thriller book. It's just like, what happens next, what happens next, what happens next, and that's all you can think, and I just love that. Another thing about the plague that was going around called the Gets, it was mentioned in the beginning and it was talked about, and then by the second part of the book it was just like forgotten about. I don't know if that was supposed to be like deep or anything. I don't think it was supposed to be. I wanted to know more about the plague. I cannot lie, I really did. But I didn't get that. It was really just forgotten, and I didn't appreciate that. I also said this earlier, but The Troop had a lot more gore in it than this book did, I think. So if you're looking for gore, I mean, this still had that in there, but I think The Troop would be where you would want to look first. And that's how I felt about the book overall. I gave it a 3-star. I should have said that first probably. It wasn't what I was expecting, and okay, whatever. If something's not what I'm expecting, I can still enjoy it, obviously. I predicted that I was gonna like it because of the plague aspect, like the virus like type thing happening. I said I was gonna like it because of that. We didn't really have that. I also said I was gonna like it because it was going to have a lot of like fast-paced gore the way that The Troop did, but it did not have that like I thought it was going to, so okay. And then third, I wasn't expecting to get a lesson out of it. There was a lesson to be said, and I don't know how deep I should really go without saying too much, and I didn't want this to be a spoiler written thing. But if you have ever read The Deep, maybe if you want to conversate with me, is that the right word? If you want to converse with me about The Deep, I'm here. I can do that because I have read the book. There's more than what I'm saying. I do think there's a lot to be said. The way that Nick Cutter writes about like the human psyche and how he breaks that down is amazing. If you've ever read The Troop, he does it a lot in this book, and vice versa. Like if you've ever read The Deep, he does a lot in The Troop, and I really like that. I don't want to say too much because I really just don't want to give spoilers out, because I think that with horror books, I mean, I wouldn't want to watch a video and somebody just flat out told me what happens. I would be pretty disappointed, so I'm not going to do that. But I am going to say that I suggest it to you if you like any of the things that I just said and talked about. The next book that I'm gonna read is Nosferatu by Joe Hill. The book is about a guy named Charles and a little girl named Victoria. He like apparently lures children in with his like car. According to the synopsis that's on the back, Charles has like a car that allows you to, quote, slip out of the everyday world and onto hidden roads that lead to an astonishing playground of amusements. This like little world that it goes to is called Christmas Land, and I just think that sounds really interesting. I'm really excited to see what that even means. But the one downside that I would have is the fact that it's like 600 pages. So I'm gonna read it with an audiobook. Like I'm gonna read and have an audiobook going at the same time. This book is probably gonna take me like all day to read, but that's kind of okay. Like I don't mind, because the next book that I plan on reading is pretty short, and that I can like knock out in probably like 3 hours. So I'm okay with Nosferatu possibly taking all day. I am very, very excited to read this one. This is my first Joe Hill book. Abracadabra. I wanna reach out and grab ya. I made myself a to-do list. I'm just fucking keeping up with it. I really sucked at reading today. So far, Nosferatu, I have not reached the middle. I'm still on page 210, but so far it's really good, and I really like the writing, and it's encouraging me because I am really excited to read Horns by Joe Hill. Nosferatu was like so long. I thought he was gonna take a long time to just explain simple things, but luckily he did not do that, because that really ruins a horror vibe for me. I think Joe Hill actually might be on my radar after this and after Horns, which is a surprise to me. Nosferatu. Okay, how did I feel about Nosferatu? Here's the thing. In those past clips, as you can see, I was kind of hyping it up. I was like, Joe Hill, you're on my radar. Yes, check. He's still on my radar. Okay, he's still on my radar. Let's get that out of the way. But this was a disappointment. I gave it 2 stars. In the end, I didn't like it. I praised him for getting to the point quickly. I was like, he's not like his father. He's just getting to it. And then I kept reading, and I was like, maybe he's not fucking getting to it. Joe Hill, I am disappointed. I lost interest. I'm sorry. I kind of like dropped off. I was like, okay, I don't even care. I just want to be done. I don't like feeling that way while I'm reading, and if something makes me feel that way, I usually it's usually the book. I didn't feel that much attachment to any of the characters, even though that was the biggest attempt, I think. All that being said, that's literally just a petty complaint. I do like that this book was good when it came to imagery with like creepy kids. I liked that. I fucked with that shit. That was fun. But the imagery of Charlie Manx himself, like who he was as a person, was done very well. And his like sidekick person being, that was done pretty well, very grotesque and creepy, and I really liked. There wasn't an actual deep dive into what Christmas Land actually looked like or was until the end of it. And okay, you could be on one of the two sides. You either love that or hate that, and I say I hated it because I was like, okay, we got glimpses of it throughout the book, but then the full what is Christmas Land happened at the end. Like, it all made sense the way that it was laid out. It wasn't that it didn't make sense. I just wish that we saw it before. I don't know. I think it would have stopped me from getting bored, because I think I was like in the middle of it, I was like, yawn, you know what I mean? I was just like, okay. But it was like the beginning when Christmas Land was mentioned, and then it was like the middle when they were talking about Victoria and how she was grown up. Basically, when she was younger, all this stuff happened to Charlie Manx. Charlie Manx is magical, and everybody else is like, no, Victoria, that never happened. That only happened in your imagination, and you're crazy, and now you're going to a mental hospital, and there you are. That's what Victoria's dealing with, and it kind of just shows a lot of that, and I'm like, okay, although that is, I suppose, can be compelling to readers, it wasn't necessarily for me in this moment. I was just like, okay, I just want to see Christmas Land. I want to see Charlie Manx. I want to see that fucked up shit. This is a horror. If I wanted to read literary fiction with a person who might be losing their marbles, then I would, but that wasn't what I was trying to do here. This is a horror. reading vlog, you know what I mean? When we did get to the imagery of Christmas land, loved it. It was great, it was grand, it was everything I wanted. Maybe not everything I wanted, but it was a lot of what I wanted, so there we are. That was good. Props to you, Joe Hill, for that one.
Hello, this is a weird angle. I didn't know where to put my phone, so I put it in the glove compartment. Remember when I was reading Nosferatu the other day, yesterday? I told myself that I was going to like film my reaction to the first half of the book, which would be about like page 340. Yeah, so I never really reached the middle of the book. I got to page 210. I was just having a really bad night, so I just didn't read. Also, if you're wondering, why are you in the car, Kai? What's that all about? Basically, my boyfriend has a class and I went with him. And the reason I went with him is to force myself to just like read The Cabin at the End of the World, which is my next book. The Cabin at the End of the Woods is only a 272 page book. So I think I can easily crank that out today, and then the rest of the day I'm gonna go back to Nosferatu and continue reading that. That's the plan for the day. Let's hope that we stick to it.
I was going to try to read A Cabin at the End of the Woods in the parking lot where I was waiting for my boyfriend, but that didn't happen because I had 3G the whole time and my audiobook wasn't working. So instead, this is how my hour and a half went. So I'm not very far into A Cabin at the End of the Woods, but the rest of the day, that's what I plan on doing. I still have to continue on with Nosferatu. Like, I want to read at least a little bit of that today, so that's the plan. I think I can still finish A Cabin at the End of the Woods today. I think it's going by pretty fast, and I think I can finish it. Hi, so this is me talking about what The Cabin at the End of the Woods is even about, because I forgot to do that. Ha. So basically, if I remember correctly, I'm doing this off the top of my head because I do not feel like looking at the synopsis or anything like that. And plus, I already read it, so hopefully I got it. Okay. So basically, there's this family. There's these two dads and this little girl named Wen, and they are on vacation and they go to a kind of isolated cabin. And one day, Wen is playing outside, and then this guy named Leonard comes marching on through, and he's like, "Oh, come to my place." They're super nice. Leonard's like, "Let's be friends." And Wen's like, "Okay." And like, everything was super pure and super cute. And then all of a sudden, he was like, "I don't want to do this. Your dads are going to hate me. Your dads are going to say no. Your dads are going to blah, 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 blah." And Wen's like, "What's happening? What's going on?" They need something from Wen and her dads, and those dads, are they willing to give that thing to them or are they not? So how do they answer? I don't know. You should check out the book to find out, but that's the synopsis. Okay. No, what do you mean? Of course I'm good at updating vlogs. No, what do you mean? Of course I'm good at reading when I tell myself what I'm going to read for the week. I didn't finish Nosferatu yet, and I didn't even finish The Cabin at the End of the Woods. I was like, it's a short book, it'll only take about 3 hours to read. I was wrong. My thoughts so far. At first, I was under the impression that I was really liking the way that the tension was building. I was really enjoying what's gonna happen next. But then it got to a point where I was like, okay, I don't care anymore, like what happens next at this point, because I'm like, you're taking forever to get there. But page 110, we still don't know why Leonard and his group of people are there. We're still like, I mean, what is happening? I don't know. I feel like it could have been condensed easily. Deep into the book, I mean, I guess I'm not that deep, but it's like 140 pages out of 172. Like, I'm halfway there. We still don't know what these people are there for. One thing that I will say that I like is when she's like an 8-year-old girl, and there's a lot of pulp culture references in it, and I really like that little dash. Usually I don't, but I feel like this kind of was done tastefully. And when like Steven Universe, and it was like, it talks about the show, and it's like, okay, Paul Tremblay, you know a thing or two about this goddamn show, okay. And I really liked that. But those are like my only like 2 opinions that I have of this book. I think it's taking forever. I like the characters. There is this familial thing going, obviously, like the dads and Wen, like Wen was adopted from China, and it talks about that, and then it like even like dabbles in like a commentary on homophobia and stuff like that, so that's pretty cool. It's like literary fiction meets thriller. I wouldn't even say it's horror at this point. I don't know if it is, because like Paul Tremblay is like a horror author, right? It's more thriller-esque to me so far. I think that this could have been like a novella, honestly. This could have been 100 pages and I think we would still get the same result. I don't know what the result is at the end. Maybe all of those pages were necessary, but I have a feeling that they were not. It's a 272 page book. You would think that like every page matters, but I cannot help feeling that some of these pages just don't fucking matter. So that's my 2 cents with that. Okay, cool. And now I'm on to go read it, honestly. I'm gonna read more of it and see how it goes. How did I feel about the book? I said this already, I think, actually. When I was reading it at first, I really liked the tension. Then the tension went on way too long. I did not like that. But when the tension was done, it was done well. I still stick to my first thought. I think that this could have easily been a novella. It could have been a lot shorter. It could have been condensed. All of the stuff I said before, I still agree with. Not all of those pages were necessary. There is certain aspects to this book that are things that I tend to gravitate towards, which I was not expecting because the synopsis didn't tell me. Because if the synopsis told me, then it would be spoiling. And guess what? If I told you what it was, it would be spoiling. But like I said, these things are things that I gravitate towards in literature. So I was like, okay, that is a pleasant surprise. I liked it. And if you happen to know what those things are, that's cool. It's like we have a secret. Yeah, I said this before, it was like a 274 page book, and again, I do not want to spoil it. Hello. So, me and my boyfriend decided that we were gonna do a 24-hour readathon where he reads all the books that he wants to read and I read all the books that I want to read. So, I've been talking about how I just haven't been reading the horror books that I want to read. So in this 24-hour readathon, that's what I'm going to be reading. I am almost done with A Cabin in the Woods. I have like 30 pages left. I think I can knock that out. He's like literally in class right now. I think I can like finish reading that while he's in class. I'm really excited because I've been like wanting to do a 24-hour readathon, and I'm like, basically what I got from the synopsis is that this book follows a group of mercenaries who are hired by this woman who tells them to like check on her nephew because he went missing. He was like taken against his will, and apparently he is in this town in New Mexico called Little Heaven. So these mercenaries arrive to Little Heaven, and then like a bunch of stuff starts getting really weird apparently. That's basically all I know about the book. So I was like surprised by what Nick Cutter did when it came to The Deep, and I was comparing it to The Troop. So now I can compare all 3 of the books and see what I liked or didn't like in Nick Cutter's moments. Hello, I'm here for an hour update thing. I don't really know what to say about it except for, one, it does not seem like it's going where I thought it was going. It doesn't seem like what the synopsis said it was about. I'm obviously early on in the game, but like I don't fucking know what to even expect at this point. Also, there's like just been a lot of characters that have been introduced, and I'm going to have a fun time keeping up with that. Other than that, I don't really have any opinions about the book. I mean, I can only have so many, like 58 pages out of like 470 something. So I am on page 138 now of the book. It's 10:37. I'm liking it so far. That's compelling, isn't it? My boyfriend's making us some vegan mac and cheese, and I am excited. That's the update. That's it. Hello, it's 1 a.m. and we're gonna take an hour-and-a-half nap because I don't know about him, but I am tired. I cannot even read a fucking sentence. He's still reading. He says he wants to finish like
what he's got going on. I think that's going to take at least another half hour, 45 minutes, and I'm debating on if I should just go to sleep or not. When I wake up, I'm gonna like drink an energy drink and then get back to reading. I think I'm about 50% in the book, so that's cool, and I'm going to update right now. I said earlier that I think that the characters are possibly gonna confuse me, but honestly I've been doing like fine with knowing the characters. I think that they all have a very distinct way about them. I think Nick Cutter is actually really good at doing characters, and this book is very character focused. I think all of his books are, though it doesn't really surprise me that much that this too is very character focused, but I think that this is probably ranking at the top. I like the commentary on religion and religious practices. The three mercenaries that I was talking about when I described what this book was about, like I said, they find themselves in this place. Like at first glance, it's just like a small little town and it's like cute possibly, but then when looking deeper into it, you can see that it's definitely like they're all very mob mentality. The mercenaries are like, this is an odd fucking moment. I'm eager to find out what is going to happen next. Honestly, I have no clue, but I really do need to just like take a nap. Now that I've talked a bit though, I kind of feel awake, but I feel like I'm gonna like look at a page and then be like. Also, I'm reading this on an ebook, and I'm pretty sure the actual copy probably has this too, but there's been illustrations, which I love. Like, who decided that adult books can't have illustrations? Yes, please. I think adults deserve it more anyways. So overall, it's a pretty good book, and I am excited to continue on. Isn't that... we say so many important things here. So we ended up falling asleep, but now it's like 5:30 and I'm back on my reading shit.
Little Heaven. How did I feel about Little Heaven, you ask? It's so crazy to me because this is the bit where I have the most for. I have the most footage for this book, and I have the most thoughts written down about this book. But I did not finish it. I got 69% in, and I didn't pick it up for like 3 days. And well, I did pick it up a few times, and the times that I did pick it up, I could only read like 5 pages, and I was like, I am so bored of this. So I DNF'd it. At 69%, I was like, this is too much. I can't do this. I don't want to do this. There's still 200 pages left. That sounds strenuous to me. I don't want to do this. I mean, I read 200 some pages of it already. You know, I read a good chunk. I read more than 50%. Hello. I think I'm still going to count it as a book. But I could not finish it. Nick Cutter. I'm so sorry. But also, like, what? One thing I will say about Little Heaven, I got that gruesome grossness that I wanted in the beginning. Oh boy, did I. I said this earlier, I'm pretty sure, but the cast of characters was very distinct. I think that Nick Cutter does a really good job at characters and making a character-based story. Nick Cutter has range. All three of his books are very different, but they're all at the same time kind of signature Nick Cutter vibes. And I really appreciate that and like that. What I did like, of course, is the fact that like this place, Little Heaven, it is actually a cult type situation. I love looking at that type of thing. But I do think that the story went on too long, and I was just like, okay, at this point, I don't even care. Let's wrap it up. This has also been called like Lovecraftian in the sense that there is a figure, so has the Deep, by the way, so has the Deep. But there's figures that aren't really recognizable or nameable, and people are like, what the fuck is that? In Little Heaven, it's like this shadow creature type thing, and it like skitters on like a crab or whatever the fuck, and it's pretty yikes. Also, I just want to say that this book kind of reminded me of the book that my boyfriend was reading at the time that I was reading this book. He was reading Devil All the Time, and this book is really similar because it had like a whole cast of characters, because they were in like this Bible thumper town. They both have some psycho ass preachers they were very much alike, and my boyfriend was like talking to me about it because he had like finished it while I was still reading Little Heaven, and I was like, oh my god, I can't believe how much this is actually really similar. Next is going to be Horns by Joe Hill, and this book is about a guy, and he has a hangover, and then he wakes up from this hangover with horns. At first, he thinks it's like all a hallucination. He thinks that he's just grieving, and so like his brain is fucking with him. He thinks it's grief because his significant other recently had been murdered. The thing about his significant other's murder is the fact that the main character, his name is Ig, he is the only suspect of this murder. I think Horns is the one I'm excited for the most. Horns. This one was my favorite. The first time that I even heard about this, I don't want to say book because I heard about the movie first. So the first time I heard about this concept, my sister and I were scrolling through channels, and we stopped on one, and all we saw was fucking Daniel Radcliffe with devil horns, and we were like, what the fuck is this? And we watched it, and I was like, wow, this is fucking weird ass shit. I love it. We only watched like part of it. We watched probably like the middle to the end, and trust me, I do not remember it. Do I want to watch the movie? I can't tell. I'll probably watch the movie. There was elements in this book that I was not expecting to love, but I did. There is this thing that I have always said, if I could do anything, it would be this. If I could have a superpower, this would be my superpower, and I think about it all the goddamn time. Well, hello, Ig, the main character, has this power that I dream and pray and wish I had, kind of. He has it, but like not quite. Like he has it, but in a very twisted type way. A way that would ruin anybody's life. So I probably shouldn't like pray and wish that I had it, but like you get what I mean. I don't want to say exactly what that thing is. It's a spoiler. But again, if you have seen the movie or read this book, you know what I'm talking about. What the horns do, you know what the horns do. There was some really disgusting characters in this, like such disgusting characters you literally wanted to fucking like rip their heads off. Like, I can't believe they existed. And it's frustrating and it sucks, and Ig is not given the fucking justice he deserves in the slightest. There was a part that I really liked where there was a snake and he was like doing a sermon, and I thought that was done really well. There was a lot of religious undertones to this book. It's very much that. I like the way that the story was divided. Going between timelines I thought was gonna be annoying, but it honestly made a lot of sense, and I liked the way that it was done a lot. If it was in chronological order, I would not have liked it as much. I think that this book does a good job of exemplifying the way that dark and twisted and sinful thoughts really have its way of creeping its way into your mind. At first they're like nothing, but then they become full-fledged like thoughts, and you're like, well, here we are. Do you give in to those sinful thoughts, or do you pretend like they never even existed? Do you run away from them? What happens then? What happens if you give in? What happens if you don't? You know? Okay, whatever. I really like this book. So the next book is Survivor Song by Paul Tremblay. So Survivor Song is basically a story about a virus that is compared a lot to rabies in the sense that it is traded through saliva, but then it's also a really freaking dangerous virus because the incubation period for somebody who gets bitten is like 1 to 2 hours. And then the people who get infected can't help themselves but to give it to other people. So this is what they're dealing with in this story. Survivor Song, how did I feel about that one, you ask? I will tell you right here, right now. Survivor Song, yes, here it is now. Yep, this story surprisingly tugged at my heartstrings a tad bit, but it was also very predictable and boring, maybe a little bit, tiny bit. After I finished it, you know, average read, I suppose. I think that most of this book was just us trying to get to a destination. Just a bunch of driving and trying to get to a hospital for the pregnant lady that is in this book. And like, okay, fair, but also can we wrap it up? The same critique I had about the other Paul Tremblay book. I think this could have been a novella. I think it could have been shorter. It was already a short book. It could have been even shorter because we would have gotten the same thing out of it. In the middle of this book, these two random characters come in and they're like, hey, we're experts about this whole rabies thing that's going on. And then I'm like, we don't care about you. We kind of don't care about you and you kind of don't need to be here. So they were like not necessary, I think. The beginning was good and it started off like that, which was appreciated, of course. But other than that, I was like, okay. And I noticed that Paul Tremblay tends to talk about sacrifice and love and familial love and what you would do for your family, what you would sacrifice for your family. I like that a lot. That is a good little dash to put into this book for sure. And the two Paul Tremblay books that I read both deal with that. I think I did like this one better than The Cabin at the End of the Woods just because I liked what it was about more. I liked that it was about the rabies and I was like, okay, that's really interesting to me. I don't know why, but the way that pandemics or viruses or whatever, to me it's like interesting, or like to see like the whole entire world just like shut down and like freak out. I don't want to physically experience it as intensely as they had to in this book, but I like experiencing it while I can read it and control whether it's actually happening in my mind or not, you know? I mean, what can I say? I think it's a kind of straightforward book. I like the cover too. I don't know. Thank you for watching that vlog. Wow. If you're here, you're great. I thought I was gonna finish this like the 15th. Hi, it's the 21st. I'm okay with that though. And then I'm gonna post it hopefully near Halloween so that it's an appropriate time for you guys to be watching it. I think this might be the end. Let's hope I said everything that I need to say. Thank you for watching. The last time I filmed was literally the readathon, which was like the 17th or something.